Pat Riley has faced criticism from some fans for a variety of reasons, and he's set to have his annual end-of-season press conference just hours away. What do we expect Riley to say about this past bleak season and the future of the Heat? We'll let you know on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. For daily content on the Heat, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your podcast app. Have a great show for you today. Pat Riley's annual press conference is this afternoon, so we're going to look ahead to the questions and answers that we want to hear. We'll also be back later this afternoon with our immediate reactions to Riley's presser, so you're going to want to look out for that later today. But before we jump into the questions that we want to hear and maybe some of the answers that we anticipate, let's just set the scene, David, of what a Pat Riley press conference is. Because, first of all, I think it's one of a kind. Not to say that other president of basketball operations or owners, they typically will, like whoever's kind of calling the shots, they'll give a end of season press conference in some way, shape, or form. But Pat Riley's have become sort of legendary. This is pretty much the only time of year that he speaks with the media in an extended setting. This is the last time he spoke with the media in an extended setting. It was this time last year when Miami got bounced out of the first round by the Boston Celtics at the time. And then, of course, we got the explosive Jimmy Butler comments then. And then the rest, I suppose, is history. But these have become a thing of legend, at least locally.
It's a good opportunity for Riley to kind of just let loose, and he does that. And we've talked about it in the past. To hear Riley speak is an amazing experience because you hear a lot of everything from just anecdotal stuff that he brings in there, where he's talking about his experiences with the Lakers or the Knicks or anything like that. And then all of a sudden he ties it to something that's happened in the past with this franchise. And then all of a sudden he delivers something from out of left field, but you still see that same fire show up every once in a while if he's provoked just right. And that's what happened last year when he made those comments about Jimmy Butler. And it's an open forum for him to just kind of let loose. And it's totally off the cuff. And to set the scene again, like he starts talking, depending on what he's in the mood to say, it could go for 5 minutes, it could go for 25 minutes, and then he kind of just talks. And he kind of just lets it all out. Everything that he's been thinking about this team, everything he wants to say about this team, he just kind of lets it all out for 25 minutes, and then he opens the floor up to everybody to ask questions.
Right. There's the
that's where you can kind of get yeah, exactly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So he walks in, welcomes the media.
Yep.
He'll make a joke or two, maybe single out a couple of reporters. And then begins with, to your point, his opening statement. There's always an opening statement. And last year's opening statement was about how the Heat wanted to try to maximize whatever this era is. But he also hinted at maybe another era coming up. And so Pat Riley's press conferences, to your point, David, they take these winding paths and you're kind of opening these doors and like, what's in this door? Oh, it's the 70s. And then what's in this door? Oh, it's the 80s. And this one's the Lakers and this one's the Knicks. And this one's Dwayne Wade. And this one, it goes in so many different directions. But as you're kind of walking through all these things and checking out all these different doors and crevices, he tells you what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to listen closely. And this thing will be live streamed, and it's also going to be broadcast over the radio on WQAM, so people can watch it in real time, listen to it in real time. And if you're paying close attention, he will tell you exactly what's happening, and he will give you straight answers. And I think that's the fascinating part about all of this, is it feels like sometimes it's veiled, and in today's media space with the way front offices work, and especially the way Eric Spoelstra is, at least outward-facingly with the media, most people are just sort of veiled, won't want to give away too many things. Riley, if you ask him the right question, he'll just tell you. I remember asking him a couple years ago, what are you looking for in the draft? And he said, length and wings. That's what we want. And what have they done the last 3 drafts? Length and wings. Like, he'll just straight up tell you. This is what we want to do. So, I think that's an interesting way to set the scene. It'll last about an hour probably in total.
Yeah.
After the opening statement, he'll open up the floor for questions, and he'll be asked all the things, and he'll answer all the things in his very unique way. But it is a fascinating thing, and I'm really excited to experience it. That said, let's get into some of the things that we anticipate he will be asked on Friday afternoon. And the number one thing that will be top of mind is what happened with Jimmy Butler. This is going to be the part of the press conference that is most anticipated. It's going to be the part that gets clipped and circulated on social media and on the TV programs and all of that stuff. What Pat Riley has to say, especially with the way he was involved in all this, with the statements and all these things. All we have heard from Pat Riley since all the Jimmy Butler stuff went down, since basically he told him to shut his mouth this time last year, has been via press releases. This will be the first time we actually hear him speak about it.
Right. It's a really interesting opportunity there. And I can already see Ira, getting that question ready to go. And he's going to have the first opportunity to do so. And he's going to ask him what happened with Jimmy Butler and ask how it all played out from what we saw or what we heard, and the whole Butler press conference and the ensuing press release saying we're not going to trade him and everything else, and what really happened. How did it actually break down between the Heat and Jimmy Butler? And I wonder how much Riley will say, because again, like, he'll answer things, but I don't know that he wants to go too heavily into details, and he's certainly not going to show his hand if it's going to reflect poorly on the franchise. So this might be the most cautiously guarded press conference that we've ever seen Riley be a part of, because it's just such a pivotal point here. And I think he acted last year from a position of, well, Jimmy's not going anywhere. Naive as it might have been, or incorrect as it might have been, I think last year he was operating under the idea that you could poke the bear, that you could say something about Jimmy to light a fire under him, because, well, that's how he responds. That's how Jimmy has always typically responded until he did it. And whether it was just a mishandled situation, or he misread it, or whatever you want to call it, he didn't expect it to happen the way it did. And so now when you're in this pivotal offseason, you can't trash Jimmy, as we've said before. You also have to make it clear that you find Jimmy's behavior to be at least partially or mostly at fault for what happened with the franchise, and why you had to get a clean break. And at the same time, Pat Riley also has to be clear and answer the questions that he's going to get about what happened with Jimmy. Did you really cry in front of Jimmy Butler? Like, I don't know if he'll address that. I don't know who would have the stones to ask him that, if he really wept in front of Jimmy Butler, and if that was something that might have alienated Jimmy in some way. Or there's so much unexpected drama for a team that never has any drama. Last offseason, the last press conference, those comments about Jimmy felt like they were dramatic, and yet they're nothing compared to what could be revealed tomorrow.
I think you're right. These questions are going to be asked of him, and I am curious to see how he uses the questions. I don't think Pat Riley has much motivation, if I were going to guess, in going backwards.
No.
In revisiting the Jimmy Butler thing. I don't think he has much interest in recounting where he could have gone right, or where he did go wrong, or how they even got there to that point. What I would imagine is he probably uses it as an opportunity to send a message to the rest of the team, and to perhaps the rest of the league, and maybe to star players out there, that Jimmy Butler is one of one. That was a unique situation to Jimmy Butler, and that the Heat have a standard that they maintain, and that will be the standard going forward. That's how I anticipate, in some way, shape, or form. I think Pat Riley will use it as a way to provide a message to the rest of the league, and to kind of pave a path going forward of what it is that they're looking for out of their star players. He might use the opportunity to praise Bam Adebayo, and he might use the opportunity to praise Tyler Herro, because who else got called out in that press conference last year was Tyler. Tyler got called fragile. Jimmy Butler got told to shut his mouth. One player demanded a trade. The other player had a career season. And Riley could refer to that. It wouldn't shock me. So yeah, I in terms of the questions that will be asked, I think there'll be a broader what happened. I think
Mhm.
what another question that should be asked and probably will be asked is, could this have been avoided? And were there opportunities to trade him earlier? Were there opportunities to trade him last summer? These are the questions that I frankly want answers to, because we kind of know the answers, but my criticism of Pat Riley this entire time is you waited too long. And you mentioned, the naivety or the hubris or whatever it is that led them to wait as long as they did. They misjudged it. They did. And they misjudged Jimmy Butler. And I wonder, Pat Riley has to be held accountable. This front office has to be held accountable to that. And that's the part of it that I'm looking forward to is, okay, holding Pat Riley accountable to the mistake that this front office made, because it was a mistake, right? It was the results are the results. I don't think there's any way to debate it. It was 100% a mistake the way that it all went down.
You say accountability. Are we absolutely sure that they could have gotten a better deal? Like, obviously, you want to go into camp, if nothing else, and avoid the distraction of the trade talk and the heaviness, which ensued once he made his public demand and everything else. The way it played out, and we've talked about that a number of times. But are you sure that Miami could have gotten a better deal had they operated like that in the summer?
No, but that's the question. And they wouldn't have gotten a worse deal, and they would have at least avoided the. I'll say that I'm fairly sure they would have gotten something better than what they ultimately got from Golden State. Even if they could have gotten a Moses Moody or a Jonathan Kuminga or a Brandon Podziemski or something like that, or in the summer, there's time to work out multi-team deals. I don't know. Maybe they don't get Davion Mitchell, but the year didn't go as planned, right? So it's not as important to me as whether or not they could have gotten a better deal months before they made the trade or not. It's you didn't see this coming, and you weren't prepared for it. And yeah, you got the best deal possible in the moment, but this was so far from the plan, and the season was a failure because of it. And that's sort of the accountability is why. How did you not see this coming? Why did you not see this coming? What were the options before? What did you not do that you could have done to avoid all of this in the first place? Because it was inactivity that got the Heat in the spot that they were in until ultimately, and it was inactivity even when Jimmy Butler wanted to trade, with Pat Riley saying we're not going to trade him, and ultimately they were forced to trade him. So I don't know. That's the part where, hey, the season went haywire. What could you have done differently? What could you have learned from this? I think all of those are fair questions.
That might be it. A lot of lessons learned and how to move forward and stuff like that. Because as you said, Riley and the organization in general just tends not to take those looks back, especially right in the moment too. Like, one of the things I was curious is what's like how is Jimmy's future with the team? Like, is he going to be welcomed back with open arms? This isn't Dwayne in 2016. It's not LeBron in 2014.
That's a great question.
But
I would love to hear the answer to that. Do you think Jimmy will get a statue one day in front of Kaseya Center?
Is he the kind of player that will have his jersey retired someday? I mean,
right. Even though Wiggins just took
past that.
Yeah, Wiggins took his jersey as it didn't even hit the floor on Jimmy Butler's way out while he was stripping it off his back. Yeah, I think those are great questions. But beyond Jimmy Butler, I think Pat Riley has to figure out what's the plan going forward. What's the plan to rebuild the roster? We're going to find all of that out today. That's coming up next year on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is? Playoff season. And that means big performances and even bigger rewards, because DoorDash is bringing the Heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more and use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid from noon to midnight the day after the game, and terms do apply. What's your go-to move after an epic game? Are you ordering wings and reliving the highlights? Or imagine being rewarded with free food just because somebody went off for 50 points. So here's the play. Just make sure you sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day with a $20 order and a code Wingstop50. That's Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms do apply. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Tune in later today with our immediate reactions to Pat Riley's press conference. But the other thing Riley will be asked is, in some way, how far away do you think you are? What's the plan going forward? Is this a team that is a star player away? Is this a team that is depth pieces away? And are you going to be building around Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo? What's the appetite to go after a star player? How aggressive will you be for that star player potentially? Or is it time to lean into the youth movement with all of the young players that Eric Spoelstra has talked about and that are on this roster? Is the plan to wait for the summer of 2026 and just sort of spend this year developing and getting your books in order? I think these are all. I would love some insight into just basically the plan, the immediate plan, the long-term plan, but more really just like, okay, what does this summer look like, and how does it pave the path for whatever comes next in the post-Jimmy Butler era?
Do we expect him to say to give that plan away? Because I know he'll answer it in his unique way, but I don't anticipate him going to any details that might be enough to placate fans, or I would say the most disappointed fans. I don't think he's going to call for a rebuild.
No.
And I'm curious to see who actually asked that question. Have you ever considered a rebuild? And he's like, he's probably would answer it with a combination of, that's not what we do here. I don't think a rebuild is the right step. We're going to look to improve by any means necessary, without giving the kind of details that you might be asking for. And so it's again a precarious place for Riley and for the organization, because I think they are still looking to make whatever improvements they possibly can to win now, and not for the total rebuild that a lot of fans are calling for. It's just yesterday we recorded, I think, what was a great episode outlining the potential of acquiring an all-time great in Kevin Durant, his fit here and things of that sort, why it would make sense on many levels. And I was surprised by the number of people, and he tweeted something out about that too, about whether or not Miami should be interested in a player like Kevin Durant. And there's still a lot of fans that think a full-blown rebuild is still the way to go. And I still question if they've been following this team at all for the past 30 years, because that just hasn't happened.
Right.
Riley joined his team in 1995, and while they were kind of mediocre at that point, his first move was to take the team's best player in Glenn Rice and whoever else was available, and was like, all right, you're going, guys, get ready to go speak Charlotte. And then he acquired Alonzo Mourning, and that's what he's done every year. They've never rebuilt. They've never torn it down. And that's not to say that it might not be a bad idea or a bad strategy. It's just not one that's going to happen. And you're gonna do what is necessary to win now, as much as they possibly can, whether it's 40
but there are
games
10 games under 500, I guess, is the pushback. And
I get it.
I would like to know, okay, do you think that that's representative of what this roster is? And you're clearly below Boston and Cleveland. And Pat Riley has always been at least open to where Miami is in the pecking order, right? He's always said,
that's true.
Yeah. And what does he say about this team? I wonder, like, and that's, do we get the idea that they're a piece away from being right back in the mix? Maybe not winning a championship. That's not what anybody said. Just, being better than the mess that they were last year. Are they a piece away from being a top 6 seed in the East again? Or is it something where they're not looking for that piece and they're more kind of saying, we think Khalil Ware and Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic and Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo and these guys could develop into that eventually, and maybe he's hinting at patience. To your point, he's not going to say it outright. Hey, we're doing A, and if we can't get A, we'll do B, and if we can't do B, we'll do C, and we're going after X, Y, and Z player. He's not going to do that. But based on the answer, we'll get a feel for what he's thinking.
I would ask one specific question. Is everyone on the table in order to acquire the superstar that you need to improve this team, or whatever the path is to improve this team. If he hints at building through the draft or acquiring the next young superstar or something like that. Because my branching off of that one question is Tyler, in your opinion, after he had a career season, a foundational core player? Because we know how they feel about Bam Adebayo.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think those two questions kind of add a lot more detail to this picture that Pat Riley will paint during his press conference. Because if everyone is on the table, then everyone is everyone, and that includes Bam Adebayo. And if he views Tyler in the same light as Bam Adebayo or had, then we'll get some kind of clarification about what the future is going to be.
Yeah, or if they look at Bam and Tyler as tentpole players and adding a player to that in terms of a big three potentially, or in today's league, is a big three even viable in today's CBA and the way that the salary cap constraints are? Is that even a viable building plan? Is this a team that's depth pieces away? Will they continue to build through the draft, as Pat Riley has hinted at and done over these last couple of years, right? Like, this is a roster built mainly through the draft now with Jimmy Butler off of it. So yeah, I would just, some sense of a direction, I think, would go a really long way for Heat fans. And this team Pat Riley has never needed to offer that. And I don't know that he even needs to offer it now. He doesn't even need to do this press conference. There's nothing in his job requirements that dictates that he has to do this. But if there was ever a time for Pat Riley to give Heat fans a sense of direction, it's now. Now is the time.
You make up an interesting point there that Riley doesn't even have to do this. And it's like we're kind of anticipating this and the drama they could create and things of that sort. And yet there really isn't. Like they sucked, or they were a little mediocre, but they still made the playoffs and stuff like that. This isn't just a few weeks ago. Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, had to go before a firing squad, basically, and address, hey, why did you trade away perhaps the best player in franchise history, not named Dirk Nowitzki?
Nico Harrison did put himself in a jumpsuit and walked himself into prison, though, in front of that firing squad. Like, he didn't have to do any of this. It's like, what are you doing?
So it's just, Riley, again, he's gonna offer some information here.
He likes to do it. That's the point. He likes doing this. So. He wants to do it.
He likes clearing the air,
And he wants to get the message out there. This is his chance to provide fans with that message. Pat Riley knows the Miami thing is, we're insulated from all this stuff. They also recognize that the fans, they read everything. They're aware of everything. They listen to this podcast. I mean, they do. So I think one of the things that Riley understands and has always understood is that the fan base matters, and that connection to the fan base is really important. And it also sells season tickets, and that's a big part of what you're doing here in the business of the NBA. So now I think Riley will be motivated to do two things, or ought to be motivated to do things. Accountability for the Jimmy Butler situation. You screwed it up. Be accountable for it. That needs to happen. That has to happen. And the other thing is, what's the plan? Give us a direction. If it's rebuild, build to the draft, go get a star, build around Bam, whatever it is, let fans know what the plan is, because that's going to be really important for this fan base going forward, and for the Heat going forward, to have that understanding and that buy-in from a fan base that, quite honestly, was not all that engaged by the end of this season. And you got to re-engage the fans somehow. There's a bunch of other things that we want to get to in terms of some things that we want answers to. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No consoles required. Just grab your paired controller, you subscribe or sign in to your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. And you can dive into hundreds of premium titles, from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops, and Avowed, so many more, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your free on your Fire TV with a Wi-Fi and auto low latency mode advanced technology. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds, so you can stay competitive. And there's so many great opportunities here. If you're not even really much of a gamer, but you know what, you've been thinking about giving it a try, this is the perfect opportunity to get started on that. Again, not much is required, but all you have to do is sign up and you're ready to play a variety of games and you'll have a blast. So head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. We'll be right back.
So a few other things that we want to get answers to. David, I don't know if you have a list of maybe specifics that you want answered here. Did you have anything?
No, nothing specific. Again, the questions about Jimmy, what went wrong there, his future in terms of how he's viewed by this franchise, if there is even going to be the hope of maintaining connection, how they view Bam, how they view Tyler, and what the plan is as far as next season.
Let's talk about Tyler, because the other big question, things that he has to deal with on the to-do list, Tyler Herro's extension. What's the plan there? We heard Herro talk about it. It does not sound like Herro is going to hold the organization's feet to the fire if it's this summer, if it's next summer. I think that's Tyler Herro sounds like he'd be fine, even though it sounds like he'd prefer to sign it this summer. But we've talked about the Tyler Herro extension. But what's Pat Riley's view on it? How did Tyler Herro bounce back from the comments of being fragile? What are the thoughts on Tyler Herro during a career year, all-star, three-point shooting contest, all that stuff? So his thoughts on Tyler Herro and that extension, that'll be up there. The other thing is there going to be a mandate from ownership to avoid the luxury tax? Because they finished in the luxury tax in each of the past 2 seasons, including this last season. They weren't able to get out of it. They have to get out of the tax either this year or next year to avoid the repeater tax, which is extremely punitive. They've never paid the repeater tax. Few franchises have paid the repeater tax. They're not going to pay the repeater tax, and they have to avoid the tax either this year or next year. And presumably, it would be easier to avoid it, to get under it this year, this coming year rather, as opposed to a couple years from now. The Heat are $9-ish million away from the luxury tax with 13 players under contract for next year, not including Davion Mitchell. So that's another question. Do you want to bring Davion back? He might be asked that. They could save $10 million by waiving Duncan Robinson. Maybe that's asked. Would they consider waiving Duncan Robinson and eating $9.8 million just to save $10 million? Basically, how much of a priority is it going to be to avoid the luxury tax? And the only reason I bring that up is because that obviously has a huge impact on how they chase a star, build the team around Bam, all this stuff. It matters in terms of the roster construction.
I would ask a question about whether or not he views now in hindsight if the acquisition of Terry Rozier is a mistake.
That's a good one. And what the heck happened?
Yeah.
In his view,
Good follow-up. Yeah. Why has he not been? I mean, why has he been playing the worst of his career? Which is saying
Terry Rozier, what the hell? Like, what happened there?
Couldn't there have been a way of acquiring Rozier without including a first-round pick? Something that effect.
Is there regret over not just letting Lowry walk away for nothing and having cap space last summer?
That I don't think
space, but more.
I don't think
something like that. I don't know.
I don't think Rozier's right.
The only other thing I have here is the only thing I can think of, other than the obvious things here, the question he's asked every year: do you have a plan to retire? He will be asked again this year.
Why?
It will probably be Ira, because he asks every year.
Why?
He's asked every year. I'm just saying
Ira, you're listening. Why are you asking that? Like, what's? I mean, just to put it out there, I get it. For the base listener or viewer or reader or whatever, I guess they're curious about whether or not
he's 80.
But he's gonna retire when he retires. Like, you'll find out. Like, he's not gonna give you a heads up. It's like, yep, this is my last year. He's not gonna say that. So it's like, I get it. He's asking. I know Ira has to ask because he's got to, just to get that, because so you could put that one liner, but Riley's 80. has no plans of retiring, wants to see a full blank for this upcoming season. Sure, I get it.
It's a fair question.
It's a
You have to
question that's
ask.
never going to get answered. It's never going to get answered.
It's less about the answer, and it's more about recognizing what it is. The guy's 80 years old. There's
What if he
no
starts off the
succession
presser?
plan that anybody knows about.
What if he starts off the presser announcing his retirement?
I mean, that would be shocking, but that
It
would
would
be the
be.
big headline. It would not surprise me if that's not necessarily for it to happen today, but it wouldn't surprise me that if and when Pat Riley does decide to do it, that would be his opening statement. It's been real, guys. See you later. Like, and he drives off in a Camaro. Like, I don't know, but you got it. If he doesn't address it, you have to ask it. You have to. I get it.
I feel like that's such a tired point. I don't know.
It's
I
tired
don't even
until it's
know
not
what
tired,
part of
right?
it-
It's tired until you get a different answer.
Well, I mean, again, I just don't even think we're going to get that answer until he announces it.
Oh, what if he does
Whatever
though?
he wants
What if he
to.
just waits until the very end and just like, I'm glad you asked.
Psych. Yeah. What is he going to do? Like, I answered all
Well,
these questions.
here's what
I'm
I'll
not going
say.
to be here, sucker. You know what?
The way to phrase the question is: you had a championship window with Jimmy. You were in 2 finals in 4 years.
Are you sticking around?
What's your patience? Do you have the patience and the time, frankly, to see this through? Because this is a new thing. That to me is the question. And that's a fair question. Because that also will give you some insight into what the deal is with the roster. Are they going to push the chips in? Is there urgency? Or is this a team that's going to act with patience? And that really matters. That's more than just who's in charge, Pat Riley, his few. That's hey, this is what fans are going to watch on their TV every night. You know, is there going to be a team that pushes all the chips in the table and tries to go get that star and reopen up that and just like crank open that championship window real quick? Or is it going to be a team that preaches patience and builds to the draft and tries to find a star maybe in a more organic way? I don't know.
I feel like he has to address the fans and like what's along those same lines. Like, what's the reason for a fan to be invested in this upcoming season? Because I think there was like an 82 game kind of humdrum feel to this past season. That wasn't anticipated. Like you and I personally were a little bit excited about how the season would play out, and we thought that it was going to play out differently. I didn't think they were going to be a play-in tournament team yet again, but we also anticipated that Jimmy was going to make the stink that he did. Perhaps again was naive of us, but I wonder, you know, how fans have it doesn't seem like their interest is as high as it once was. And maybe it's because this team is kind of in a mediocre transitional period here, but like even from the front office point of view, like why should the common fan come here and drop hundreds of dollars to go watch a game of a mediocre team that doesn't have any clear path to getting better?
Yeah, it goes back to what I said. I think he has to be accountable to the fans. This organization let the fan base down this year. And they didn't stand for the Heat culture and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff went away. Like this was a team that we barely recognized this year in a lot of different ways. And I think that this front office and Pat Riley has to be held accountable and answer the fans' questions that way. And again, I think Riley does this because he has an understanding of this is how you reach the fans. And this and obviously that's extremely important. We will get answers to all these things and more. We'll be back later this afternoon with our reactions to Riley's presser. So make sure to look out for that show later today. But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.